We are being filmed as well as recorded, so no inappropriate scratching. You might want to lose the Ponzi teacups as well. I don't think you noticed the cameras are on. All of a sudden, the rock's gone out the window, hasn't it?
When you're this rock and roll, you can drink.
The finger, darling, the finger. Yeah. The finger. Raise the finger. There you go. Good to see you guys. Bono and Edge from U2. Welcome back with this new album, No Line on the Horizon, March 2nd. Bravo. That's what I have to say about that. You were at Shepherd's Bush last night. For the right reason, being involved in something that's important and is close to your heart, the War Child thing, and also getting a chance to hang out with some of your peers and jump up on stage and see Killers, Coldplay, and, you know, have a bit of fun. Good time?
Yeah, and in our heads, you know, that's who we're up against. We don't think about the fact that we were around in the 90s, even alone the 80s. So, you know, the Killers, you gotta keep an eye on the youth.
You keep a very close eye on the youth, Bono, because you're up there singing the greatest U2 song that U2 never wrote, you know, which is All These Things. I mean, that really is, I'm sure Brandon would openly admit that that's a nod, that record.
Well, he says that, but I don't see, I hear Joy Division in there and that guitar break, and I hear lots of things, and just that chant, I've got soul but I'm not a soldier, it has a whole different meaning when War Child poster is behind your head, so It was yeah. I think the other line is something that's I'm more old than I can take. Yeah. I got to sing that.
Just by coincidence, of course. I'm sure Brandon didn't pass you that one.
Yeah, no, I passed it to myself.
A hospital pass there.
And Coldplay, you know, they're such an extraordinary band, and you know, such songwriting talents and beautiful. I think he's probably one of the most important melodists since Noel Gallagher, since Ray Davies, since Paul McCartney. I think he's in a line of great sort of British melodists. Now, of course, nothing on Irish melodists, but
you know, if all these things that I've done is the greatest U2 song U2 never wrote, then Coldplay is certainly the greatest U2 that U2 never formed. What is it about Brandon that you know you identify, because I know you're very fond of him as a frontman as well as a person, and you've been very helpful towards that band Coldplay, fine, but you've definitely helped the Killers along the way. You've taken them on the road and stuff. What is it about Brandon you think that reaches people?
Well, one of the big lies in indie music is that people don't want to they don't want to be the Beatles, or they don't want to be the Sex Pistols, or they don't want to be the Rolling Stones, and it's not true. People don't form a band just to play in their garage. And I just loved the musical ambition of the Killers. And then, if you believe in your music, surely you're going to want to take that as far as you can. You know, a songwriter, people say songs are like your children. They're wrong. Songs are like parents. They tell you what to do. And they tell you how to dress, they tell you, you know, where to hang out, they tell you, you know, what video maker to work with. But they also, if they're great, they tell you that you better look after them. Yeah. And I just loved with the Killers that they want to get their songs on the radio. They're changing forms. They move from rock into dance music, and in America that's a sin to move into to dance music. And whereas in Britain here you have more of a tradition of people moving around genre. In the United States, that doesn't happen because radio is very niche.
You know, I think about what you guys have achieved as a band, and the fact that you talk about the bands you're up against, and you can hear it on the new record. You know, You're Hungry, and it's a visceral and energetic and exciting sounding record, and it's different and varied. And at the same time, when I listen to the Killers and I listen to Coldplay, and very much Kings of Leon as well, who are the latest to join you guys at the table, they've been clearly influenced by bands like yourselves and Pearl Jam. And you are an influence too. Does that sit nicely on your shoulders as well as being contemporary?
I think, you know, again, the Kings of Leon were very generous in their comments about us and saying, oh, our album, they came out on the road. I can't have been that easy. They were playing sometimes when people weren't there. And
it's a horrible, horrible thing to have to support you two for some bands.
Well, sometimes,
it's a tough crowd. It's a tough gig. It's a big room.
But they really
did great, though, I think.
Came away with
the desire to be on
with
a
desire
jet.
to
pretty much what it was. Let's be honest here.
They just wrote these really, really great songs, and you know it runs deep with them. And Caleb was talking about Townes Van Zandt, and he sent me this documentary. I forget what it's called, but if anyone gets a chance to see it, it's a DVD on this great songwriter called Townes Van Zandt. And they're digging deep into this American tradition of songwriting. So they're not just an ephemeral thing. I think they've got guts and soul, and there's blood in their music.
But they also don't fall into the trap of thinking that authenticity is about staying true, like putting the music in some sort of cryogenic suspension. You know, it actually has to move forward. It has to take on board what's going on in the culture. And they are doing that. They're taking kind of what was a Southern American idiom and moving it into the 21st century. And it's so great. We saw it on the tour. They were learning so much, and they were so hungry to see what was going on. And I think they're a band to watch for the future. I think they're going to go.
They've definitely been listening to your music, man. But I can tell you straight up, I sat with Caleb on the brown couch and I said, "What did you learn from U2?" And he went, "How to travel."
How to travel.
So I'm telling you, man, that's where the ambition lies, boy. They got a free ride on your jet, and they want a piece of that.
It's funny because Huey from the Fun Loving Criminals came on board one night and he was, "Whoa, chilling like the Caesars."
They call us the rich uncles.
Right. Well, he's the king of the one-liner, that guy. It's so great that we can be a part of launching this new album, you know, on our show in the evening at Radio 1, you know, between 7 and 9, which is the birthplace of hopefully artists like, you know, Kings of Leon, Killers and things like that, because I think some of the audience that have travelled with you and some of the new audience coming through forget that there's that punk spirit that is alive and well in you guys, you know, and you can hear in your music. Do you know what I mean? And it's still there. You're still that band, aren't you?
Totally.
Yeah,
I mean, punk came at the right moment to shake everything up and challenge everybody that on the basis that music had to mean everything. You know, it's if you're actually going to get people to go and buy your CD, if they're going to come to a concert, you better mean it. And we've never lost that because we started out in the audience at those punk gigs, and we felt what it was like to be at a Clash show, a Buzzcocks show. And, you know, we were 15, 16, and it made such an impact. Stiff Little Fingers,
there you go.
All these bands. So having come from there, you never really lose that understanding of what it is like to be in the crowd.
Some do, though, man, and you must admit, you've seen a few of your contemporaries and your peers coming up through the 80s and the 90s try and age gracefully according to what people consider they should be doing, and then try and come back fighting because it hasn't worked. And a couple spring to my mind without naming names, but you guys have never done that. You've never had to fight your way back onto Radio 1 or onto MTV. You've always had that fight in you, and I think that should be applauded.
We feel we're fighting for our lives. I mean, to be talking to you now, for people to be listening to us, you know, a lot of people have a U2 album. You know, why would they want another one is a very good question. And we have to fight very hard to explain why we think it's worth, you know, coming along for the ride with us. We really do. I mean, that's not false. That's how we feel.
You can hear it on the record. I mean, it's called No Line on the Horizon. It starts with the title track. It is a very unique way to start a record, especially for U2 fans. And from that point forward, it's twists and turns all the way, and it's pure quality all the way as well. Let's talk about, you know, the making of this record as much as we can, and save some stuff for later. So, Fez, we talked a bit about this. You know, how important was this place to you guys in the making of this record to go to Morocco and get stuck in there?
We always seem to need locations, whether it was Berlin for Achtung Baby or in a way somehow in our heads the landscape of America for the Joshua Tree. Locations are very important, physical locations. Often they're locations with a lot of contradictions or crossroads like Sarajevo, places like that. And Fez
Miami.
is...
For pop.
100%.
Totally.
Yeah. I mean, Miami is a really great example.
The album Miami, actually, it was one of the working titles right up to the very end.
Yeah.
Because it's a crossroads between North and South America, between Cuba and America, between the Caribbean. I mean, it's exactly one of those locations. Fez is the religious capital of Morocco. It's a sort of holy place, but a very tolerant place. There are synagogues there, there are Christian churches there, and they run a religious music festival every year where you get these Sufi singers coming in, and the Jujuka drummers are famous, Zeppelin, lots of people, Brian Jones. People have studied at the foot of these great drummers. And ours was just the next in the line of pilgrims that turned up at this place. But we set up camp in this little hotel, they call them riads, an open courtyard, square of sky over our heads, birds flying in, and
circle, played music
on Larry's drums. And
poor Larry.
The strangest thing is that Larry was one of the ones who really wanted to go, and it's very hard, as I keep saying, to get Larry to leave the north side of Dublin for the south side of Dublin.
Yeah.
So to get him to Morocco was...
He loved it though, didn't he? He's been
Yeah,
quoted
he
as
really
saying,
did.
I mean, it was a defining point for him as a member of the band again, to be in a situation with you guys making music in that kind of purity of environment, and it gave birth to an incredible song on the record called Moment of Surrender, which is a one-take wonder, isn't it, really?
There's 4 songs on the album are one take, done in one take. They're only,
Can I guess them?
Only ever played once. A Moment of Surrender,
Yeah.
No Line on the Horizon,
Yeah.
Being Born,
Yeah.
and
Unknown Caller.
Unknown Caller.
Wow. Good day at the office, that, isn't it? You know? Bish, bosh,
So
bash.
that
Thank you.
took...
Learn
that-
from a professional, kids. I'm out.
That took 2 hours. The rest of the album
Took about
took
2 years. Yeah. When you think back and listen to those songs, though, you must almost feel like a fan because you didn't have to labour over them for 6 months, those particular songs, to be able to tap into that inspiration and hear it back and go. Because you forget a moment. You don't forget 6 months of ploughing through the same tune, but those moments just are a blur, aren't they?
Yeah, they're luminous, those songs. And we have a thing where we just try and get out of the way of the song. You know, when you get something like that, you keep your fingerprints off it, and you just try and discern where the song needs to go. And
Yeah.
I mean, Bono's the one with the most difficult job at that point because he's got to find his way into it and lyrics that connect with the mood of the music. So
It's interesting you should mention that because lyrically you've taken a real turn on this record, you know, and you've gone into third person and created characters and sung it in a very passionate way. So it feels personal. It doesn't feel like you're character acting.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I know that you haven't done some of the things that you're singing about, or at least on a personal level. Well, I guess you haven't.
Yeah, there's I haven't broken every commandment.
You haven't done stand-up comedy. Let's be honest.
I haven't broken every commandment, but I've wanted to.
Quote.
The characters in those songs have been to places I haven't been, at least physically.
Yeah.
But it really freed me up. I was sick of singing about myself, and yet I found I could sing about another. I could sing just from as deep a place, by putting myself in different predicaments. That's really what I tried to do.